This week on Let's Talk Schools, 22 FCS elementary schools were recently recognized by the Georgia Department of Education as literacy leaders. That's the most in the state. Find out why we deserve this prominent honor and the steps we are taking to transform education. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Schools. I'm Superintendent Mike Looney here in Fulton County, and welcome to this show. I've been looking forward to this so much because we've been focusing a lot of efforts on literacy. We've done regional, national conferences and talks and presentations about the work we're doing in Fulton. But today we're going to personalize it. We're going to get to the people that are actually doing the work. Ladies, I'm so excited you're here. So I'm going to start with you just because you're on my left. Tell us who you are, what your title is, and where you work.
Absolutely. My name is Amy Long, and I'm a K-2 literacy coach at Stonewall Tell and IB World School.
Okay.
And I'm DeShonta Adams. I'm the K-2 School Improvement Coach at Campbell Elementary School for reading.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for being on the show today. So you have a very long title. So let's start. Let's talk about what does a day in your life look like at work?
Well, I start first thing in the morning with our students, and we catch them at breakfast sometimes, and we work on some things that they might need more work with. Even while they're eating, they're more open to doing it then. And then I go from classroom to classroom. Kindergarten through third grade, we're working on phonics instruction, and I'm with the kids. Our first year, I spent a lot of time with teachers, but they're kind of getting it. So now I really get to go in and see how the work is improving, what our students are doing, and it is phenomenal what we're seeing happening right now.
So you're seeing a lot of growth in our teachers as far as their skill set as it relates to how to use the 5 pillars of reading, how to do phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, comprehension, fluency. And so that's good to know. And now you're focusing more effort on students.
Yes, and so the teachers are comfortable enough to where what they're noticing, they know how to go throughout the 5 pillars of reading. So based on what kids are doing, they know they might need to drop back to fluency, or because they are performing, they might push them on to background knowledge or vocabulary, pushing them closer to comprehension. So yes, that has given me the opportunity to really sit down with the kids and see how what the teachers are delivering is transferring over to them in the independent work that they're doing.
It must be very rewarding work. I can only imagine when you're starting to see the light come on for some of the students that you serve.
Absolutely.
When they connect the dots, so to speak, in literacy.
Yes. So the funniest thing for me is when a kid is sitting at a book and they're reading and they're trying to get through it. And as a teacher, you know, you typically want to go in and help. But then you see they got it and that smile go on their face and they just keep reading. That's the most joyful part of it, to know that they're able to use the strategies that they've learned all by themselves.
That's awesome. Now tell me what you do similar work, but your title is different. So how does that work?
I think we're all sort of doing the good work behind the science of reading, and I think we're all moving towards the same joint goal together. So I know that we've been seeing a lot of transformative practices happen at Stonewall Tell as well. The transfer of knowledge, as you spoke about, we've really had some creative PDs around some strategies that we can use, and now we're seeing teachers actually own that learning, take over PLCs and begin to lead their peers in this work. And then the most exciting part is, like she said, when we go into the classrooms, we see this in application with our students.
Mm-hmm. So you said the word PLC. I want to define what that is because not all of our viewing audience has the vernacular that educators do. So it's
Absolutely.
Professional learning communities.
Yes.
So what is a professional learning community? Help us understand.
Yes. During that time in a professional learning community, that's our dedicated time where we can really dig into the work that we need to do as educators. So during that time, we may unpack some standards. We may look more closely and analyze student work. And then we're determining next steps based on what the students need. So for students, what is the initial learning plan? What do we do if they know it? What do we do if they don't know it? We're answering all these questions in our PLC to ensure that we're doing the right thing for students.
Right. I'm going to tell myself, more than now, a quarter of a century ago, I remember teaching, and my first assignment was teaching 4th grade. And I had a student that came to me, was a new student, who literally was a non-reader, just, you know, and I didn't feel as if I was prepared as an educator with my college classes to be able to intervene and do the best things for that student. I felt hopeless. And so I made a commitment at that time to learn more and to really dig into best reading practices. How transformational has it been in your school for our teachers really to set aside the vestiges of the past and to really focus on what works best for students in the area of learning to read?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that 100% it's super important for our teachers to focus on activating all parts of our students' reading brain, which is something we learn about in letters and science of reading as well. So when we come into PLC, that is that time when we can bring concerns to the table. We can really talk about students not that are struggling, but students that are on or above academic standards, and we can excel them. So it's really a place where all students are accounted for, our special needs students, all of our students. So teachers come together and collaborate on best practices and research-based strategies that support all students.
So I'm going to ask both of you this question. How long have you been doing the job that you currently have? And what has the district done to prepare you or to accelerate your learning or support your learning to be able to coach teachers and students at the same time?
We've both been doing it for the same amount of time, 3 years.
3 years, okay.
I would say the monthly coaches meetings help a lot. We get to come and do the work with our program specialists first, so we can get a better understanding before we do it and redeliver it with our teachers. But also having that one-on-one connection with the program specialists and the coaches that come out to our schools. Mm-hmm. And Amy could talk about this more, but we also collaborate as a zone. And so all the Zone 3 coaches come together and we're like, what's going on at your school? What do you see? This is what's going on at my school. And we're able to piggyback off of each other to see what will work, what could work, and what changes we might need to make.
Amy?
Absolutely. And to add on to that, I would just say that in addition to our monthly coaches meetings where we get a plethora of information, not only do we practice content, but we do practice coaching as well. So what is it like when we go into a classroom? We want to create a warm and welcoming environment as coaches, create a culture of coaching, right? So we can't just talk to teachers in any way. So we have a structured manner in which we provide effective feedback to teachers based on what we saw and based on what's best for our students. So I think that creating that culture of coaching, collaborating across our school districts is truly strengthening us as a zone, and we're doing that in every single zone. So that's strengthening us as a district as a whole.
Right. So I want to ask you this question because a lot of people that watch this show are parents and not
Mm-hmm.
educators. Mm-hmm. Our teachers have been retrained and there's continuous training now and forevermore
Mm-hmm.
and how to best teach our students to read and comprehend what they're reading. What can parents do? What advice? You're the experts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the expert. You're the expert. You're in the trenches every day. What advice would you give our parents? How do they lean into learning more about the science of reading, but also how to best help their children in becoming fluent comprehenders of written text?
A lot of times I hear people say, read, have your kids to read 20 minutes, 45 minutes a day. I think to make that better connection of what's happening in our classrooms now with home is to have your children to read out loud. You need to hear how they're reading. You need to hear where they're, making the mistakes, because then you'll be able to understand the things that's coming home from the teachers, because it's more explicit in the classroom than it is at home. So have your kids to read out loud. In the car, they might be, just sitting in the house or whatever, turn the radio off, turn the TV off, and just listen to your child read out loud.
That's really good advice. Amy?
Yeah. And then I would like to add on to that, when somebody says just read, that's sort of a loaded thing, right? Mm-hmm. There's lots of things that go into reading. So I definitely would encourage parents to reach out to your teacher and get some more specific information on maybe where your student is struggling, on which phonemic skill or phonics skill that they may need more support with. That way you can really dig in. And there's lots of different free resources that you can use. FCRR, the Florida Center for Reading Research, the Cox Campus. There's lots of free research-based sites that you can take advantage of as a parent. And at Stonewall Tell on our website, we actually have a parent academic toolkit, which offers plenty of activities and things you can do that are all research-based for parents to use at home.
Really, really good advice. So as a dad of 4 now grown children and 2 grandchildren, what role does writing and spelling have in this mosaic that we're trying to work within as it relates to literacy?
Well, for me, a child is able to really express what they can comprehend through their writing. So a lot of times you can ask them questions after they read, and they're quick to give you an answer, but you really get a deeper understanding of their comprehension, what they learn from the text, and even what background knowledge they can take on to the next grade level or the next adventure based on how they're writing. What we've implemented in Fulton has really increased the children's ability to express themselves in writing, because now they're not getting stuck with, how do I spell this word? Or, they know the punctuation and where it's supposed to go, so that they have dialogue and it's meaningful to the next person who's reading. So reading and writing, it goes hand in hand, and the better they read, believe it or not, the better they write.
Absolutely. I was just going to say there are reciprocal processes. So in order to read, you need to write to read. And then spelling all works into that, with students beginning to spell phonemically as the beginning, sounding out their words, may not have all of the proper usage or spelling. However, they're making meaning to that and connecting a letter to a sound. And as they move on, they'll begin to grasp those deeper skills that can have them writing much more fluently as writers.
So I know I have seen historically where children are learning to read, and they don't have necessarily the phonics or phonemic awareness skills. They haven't been taught explicitly. And one of the refrains that we used back before we were not as informed as we are today is, look at the picture and tell me what you think is happening. But is that really reading comprehension, or what suggestions would you have as it relates to that?
Follow through with the word. A lot of times when kids look at the picture, they can get the wrong meaning from the picture. There's lots of meanings that come from just a picture. What they used to say, a picture tells 1,000 words, right? So we tell them to read through the word, and they can use the picture, because later on in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, they do use those illustrations and photos and things. So we don't want to take that completely away.
Right.
We just flip the order of it. So read through the word and read through the sentence, and then you can look at your picture to see if what you're reading is matching to the picture.
Oh, I like that idea. So read the words first, and then look at the pictures and confirm you're reading. That's a good strategy.
Yes.
I should have used that with my grandchildren. Awesome. You want to add anything to that?
I remember a time I was teaching a student to read, and it was actually a picture of a rabbit on the page, but I think the word was bunny. And I used that strategy, and the kid was like, rabbit. I said the word is definitely not rabbit. But now we know that we would say, could that word be rabbit? Look at the beginning letter of that word. What is that beginning sound? The student would say, B. Do you know a word that might begin with B that is this picture? So you're really taking the meaning of that word and then connecting it to the picture later.
Okay. One final question for both of you. I've been reading a lot of research about the importance of vocabulary development. So the reality of it is that some of our students come to school with a relatively small vocabulary. And then we have other students that come with 40, 50,000 word vocabularies entering kindergarten. So 3,000 to 4,000 words, 40 to 50,000 words, a huge vocabulary deficit. How important is allowing kids to talk, allowing kids to hear rich vocabulary words in their home and in the broader context of life outside of school? How important a role does vocabulary development play in students becoming literate in school and in life?
I would say vocabulary is 100% one of the largest indicators of a skilled reader. Even using simple shifts in your classroom or at home, instead of just saying stand up, could you please line up in an orderly fashion? Use some other word that maybe they don't normally hear in everyday language, a tier 2 vocabulary word. If you Google tier 2 vocabulary words, there's tons of more advanced or rigorous words that kids could use, exquisite, beautiful, amazing, words that we may not hear every single day.
Right.
And then we know in the K2 span, we need to expose them to a lot more vocabulary, because if we just stick with what we do, a lot of times they won't get those rich tier 2, tier 3 words. And we know they need that background when they move on to 3rd, 4th, and even middle school and high school. And also when we talked about the writing piece, they are really able to express creativity with more vocabulary words, with more turning and talking about what I'm learning about, connecting pictures with words, because we have multiple meaning words, right? Instead of just saying good, that's the one I remember from when I was just stop saying good, saying great, or it's immaculate, or whatever you want to say. It gives the kids more access to becoming, I would say, more creative and also to use that part of their brain that they use when they're reading, so they make that movie in their mind so they're able to hold on to and retain what they are learning in the classroom.
Well, I'm confident the future of literacy instruction in Fulton County is alive and well thanks to your leadership and skill set. Thank you, ladies, for joining us today. Thank you for joining us for another Let's Talk Schools edition. I look forward to seeing you again soon. And as always, thank you for watching. And now, let's go around the district in 90 seconds. That's it for our show this week. Let's keep this conversation going. We'd love to hear from you on our social media platforms. Join us next time on Let's Talk Schools, and thank you for watching.